Keegan, you and Chris are just getting in a big fight. Would you stop if I said, hey, cut it out right now? Okay, would you do it if Mr. Kelly said it? Would you do it if a policeman came here pointing his gun at you and said, stop right now? Chris is still shaking his head, no, you're ruining my analogy. In most likelihood, it would. And why? Because now there's a higher authority than you two there. And that's what Emory Reeves is saying, is that when a higher authority steps in, wars stop. So how do you stop a world at war? Is there a higher authority than the individual nations fighting each other? Wouldn't the concept of the United Nations kind of serve as that higher authority? So what is Emory Reeves saying? I'm sorry?
France, like, not get involved in it.
Not necessarily. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Keep the United Nations, I guess? I don't know. Like,
Keep the United Nations and do what with it?
Intervene.
Close. He's saying give the United Nations sovereign authority, which means it would be the government of the world. It wouldn't just be a collection of nations getting together to discuss things and hopefully, do some actions together to keep peace. It would be the government.
But they don't want that.
what would it last like?
Well, there's a lot of nations who don't, but there's a lot of people who... How many of you have heard of the one world government movement? That's what that is the idea that all nations would be just like the United States. They would each be an individual state, and that there would be one government that rules the world. The Secretary General, in effect, would be president of the world. Is that a way to reform the United Nations? Would that work?
But then who would be the Secretary General then? Because wouldn't they have to like...
I don't know, would it still be elected by the nations in the General Assembly? Would it still be elected by the nations in the General Assembly? Would the Security Council, would a member still have, for example, Boutros Ghali, who was the past Secretary General before the current one, was elected for a second term, but the United States vetoed his election because they felt that he was outstripping the resources of the United Nations. We didn't want to contribute more money to the United Nations than what we already were. So would that still be a fair part of it? If we went to one world government, would stronger states still have a veto power? How many people think this one world government's a good solution? That's going to end war and meet the goals of the United Nations forever? How many people think it won't work? How many people are just neutral or refusing to raise their hands? I'll take the fact that you're not raising your hands as evidence. Nick, Pags, well, do you think it'll work? Why or why not?
I don't think it'll work.
You don't think it will? Why not?
Just because you can't have countries won't go along with that. I mean, it just wouldn't be. Somebody would have a problem with it. Somebody's always gonna have a problem with it. It just wouldn't work out.
Works in the United States, doesn't it? I mean, you don't see Illinois going to war with Alabama.
We started out like that. Other countries have their own backgrounds and everything. So it's how people were brought up. We were brought up a different way than they were. We're not, all other countries aren't gonna all of a sudden go to what we do because it would work the best. It's what they learned.
But given time, would it? I mean, if we gave it 100 years or so, would everybody just kind of accept that there's this one world government?
Eventually something would happen and they'd try to break off. And I think other people would go with them.
Marissa,
Like smaller
I'll charge you. What were you going to say? Thank you.
Oh, no, never mind. It's okay.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say how, like, later in the generations, how people's opinions could still change. I don't know. Like, you know how if, I don't know how to explain it.
So you think at some point in time people's minds may change and they'd be more willing to accept this, or?
Like, how once you have an opinion, it would probably still always be there because of, like, if... Don't make fun of me.
Go ahead, you're doing fine.
And, like, never mind. It's fine.
No, you were doing fine. I think they were just goofing off back there. That's not respectful of you.
Yeah, exactly.
What'd you say, Jen?
If you're forced to do something, like you don't really have a choice, you have to do it, but you're still going to have that former opinion of, I wanted this.
if we had one world government today and the Palestinians were fighting the Israelis, how well could one world government handle that situation? We could certainly, we would all be in unanimity because that government might decide to send troops there or they might not, but it would be the one government. It wouldn't be Russia has a veto, the United States has a veto. Would us being able to go there and solve it?
What if like more than one event happened, like major events, like all around the world? Then how would they have to solve all those?
The same way the United States handles all the major things going on right now. And it, you know, we got the auto plants, the banks, economic woes.
2 wars.
Yeah. I mean, it's a stretch, yes, but I think of how the United States would handle the United States government and just put that at a larger level. Would it work? Is it working right now for us to be involved in 2 wars and the economic crisis and the banking, the auto industry? That's your opinion about whether, you know, whether or not it would.